With us now is NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba, NBC News senior legal correspondent and Weekend Today co-anchor Laura Jarrett, and NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Monica, President Biden spoke about an era of civility that we don't see anymore.
Exactly, Jose, really hearkening back to that, praising the late justice, especially for being so devoted, the president said, and understanding her influence, the power that she held, but never doing it for the sake of that power. And he really spoke to the barriers that she broke, of course, remarking on how incredible it was that she was the first woman to sit on the high court, but that she had also broken barriers before that, and that he was even impressed with her when she appeared before the Judiciary Committee in 1981 for her confirmation hearings, where he was the ranking member and the top Democrat. And he even went back to some words that she had in her opening statement and throughout that process, saying really that he felt and understood why she had been regarded as a person for all seasons, somebody who was a legislator and a lawmaker before she was on the Supreme Court, and she's the last to be holding that kind of service and responsibility, but that it was one that she really understood. And the president said that he really felt even in that moment that he knew that Sandra Day O'Connor, even though they were maybe going to have disagreements, that there would be opinions that he would not have necessarily fully embraced, that she was going to approach this job knowing that the court, that seeking justice under the law is the bedrock of America and a key principle. And so President Biden spoke to those moments 42 years ago, and we heard from him, of course, this recognition that it was phenomenal. He argued and said that she was confirmed 99 votes to 0 in a show, in a moment that might be difficult to try to wrap your head around in today's politics and the divisive nature of what we sometimes see in government and in Congress, that could happen, that even though you may not agree with somebody, you can understand their responsibility for the job and what they will bring to it. And that is what he said. Essentially, it meant that that confirmation happened was a signal that the country can do that in these moments when it is important to come together and to make process. But overall, Jose, President Biden really praising Sandra Day O'Connor, he said, as an American pioneer, a daughter of the West, and somebody for whom he says he will remember fondly in terms of everything she did as such a dedicated public servant. Jose.
Yeah, Michael, just thinking of how you will remember her, and I'm, reminded often of Jose Ortega y Gasset, the philosopher, Spanish philosopher, who said, "I am I and my circumstances," and the circumstances of her reality and of her life and how they made an impact on who she eventually became and what legacy she left behind.
Well, she was always modest, and I think that probably came through the service today. She never, in fact, she radically underestimated her importance on the court, especially when she was that swing vote during the William Rehnquist Court. As you know from your experience in Washington, Jose, people with that much importance who are that modest are sometimes hard to find. It was a huge element of her character. Another element that came through today was that great marriage, and I think we should say this was alluded to, but John O'Connor, who was a wonderful person, gregarious, very smart, great lawyer, about a decade before he was diagnosed publicly with Alzheimer's, he began to suffer the symptoms. And he was diagnosed, I believe it was 2002 or so. And by 2005, Sandra O'Connor, I heard her say this myself, she said, "I really have to get off the court because I have to take care of John." And the irony is, and this was mentioned during the service, she did do that. She did make a sacrifice for him. But not too long after she resigned from the court, John O'Connor's condition had deteriorated to the point that he did not know who she was. So she knew that she could have stayed on the court for probably 5 or 7 years longer and continued to have that influence. But take a look at American history. How many people with that kind of influence and that kind of importance that she had was willing to give that up for her spouse? Oftentimes happens, but not always. Can I say one more thing, Jose?
Sure.
And that is, this was a wonderful marriage. They loved each other deeply. But it turns out that Sandra O'Connor was the only justice of the Supreme Court in American history who had been once proposed marriage by her Chief Justice, which in this case was William Rehnquist. This was not known until Evan Thomas's great book came out a few years ago. Rehnquist and Sandra O'Connor were classmates at Stanford Law School. Rehnquist fell under her spell, proposed marriage to her, which she turned down. And she was such a catch that apparently 3 other men at Stanford Law School also proposed marriage to her. And you would think that this might be an awkward situation when in 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor arrives on the court, and there she is serving alongside Chief Justice Rehnquist, who had once wanted to become engaged with her. One measure of both of their civility is that it was never an issue. They had a great friendship, had a great working relationship, but this was one additional unique aspect of Sandra O'Connor's life.
It's so fascinating. One record probably that has no threat of being broken in the future.
I would guess so.
Michael, thanks. And Laura, just your thoughts on this life of purpose.
Jose, I was struck by some of the anecdotes and storytelling from her biographer there, Evan Thomas, reflecting at how she really was sort of the social gatherer for her fellow justices on the court. He talked about how she would make sure that they all had lunch together, and if they weren't showing up to the cafeteria there to dine together, she would go seek them out. He said that she went specifically to go see Justice Clarence Thomas and told him, "Clarence, you need to come to lunch." And eventually he acquiesced and later reflected that she was, quote, the glue of that court, and that if one of her law clerks put in a snarky remark about one of her fellow justices, she would scratch it out because that was just not how she rolled, Jose.